What if I told you that deep in the heart of West Africa, a land once chained by colonial debt and foreign dependence, is now forging its own destiny with fire, with metal, and with unbreakable will? Burkina Faso, once considered among the poorest nations on earth, is rising, not with aid, not with pity, but with steel. Under the fearless leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the country is undergoing an industrial rebirth. From abandoned quarries and neglected iron fields to the thundering birth of new steel plants, the revolution isn't just in the streets anymore. This steel strategy is shaking the very foundations of African trade. With the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, in full swing, one nation's industrial leap could become the continent's supply chain backbone. And the age of dependency is coming to a molten end. It's in the furnaces. It's about building bridges across Africa, made by Africans, for Africans. And it's not just Burkina Faso that's changing. For decades, these deposits lay untouched, exploited only by foreign mining companies, shipped abroad, and processed elsewhere. My people, this isn't just about infrastructure, it's about sovereignty. He took on the economic blueprint left behind by neo-colonial systems. And his mission became clear: to transform the extractive economy into a productive economy. But that era is ending. This is a Frick Vibe News, and in today's special feature, we dive into the blueprint behind Traoré's steel strategy, explore how it's reviving Burkina Faso's economy, creating jobs, strengthening regional trade, and sending a powerful message to the world. Africa will no longer import what it can produce. It's part of a broader national plan known as the Industrial Acceleration Program, which places metallurgy, construction materials, and energy at the center of development. Buckle up, because this story is fire, quite literally. In the shadows of poverty, power often lies unseen. Burkina Faso is blessed with vast mineral deposits, particularly iron ore, a critical raw material for steel. The irony? The very foundations of Africa, its bridges, towers, rails, and pipelines, were being imported from abroad using materials that came from its own soil. Under colonial economic structures, Burkina Faso was designed to extract, not to process. When Ibrahim Traoré rose to power in 2022, he didn't just take on political control, and that begins with steel. Steel isn't just metal, it's the lifeblood of modern infrastructure. Traoré's government has launched a new initiative to kickstart domestic steel production, leveraging the nation's iron ore deposits and regional demand. But imports mean vulnerability. When prices go up, projects stall. When sanctions hit, construction stops. Key components of the steel strategy include reviving defunct steel plants in places like Kaya and Kédougou, attracting regional partners from Mali, Niger, and Guinea to pool resources, building local blast furnaces and rolling mills to process iron ore internally. Traoré's plan is turning the steel industry into a magnet for youth employment, training young engineers and artisans in metallurgy and welding, using solar and hydropower to reduce energy costs and ensure eco-efficiency. This isn't a copy-paste Western model. It's an African steel model, grounded in sustainability, youth empowerment, and regional integration. Ibrahim Traoré has repeated a simple but powerful phrase: "What we don't control, controls us." This philosophy applies to everything from military security to currency, and especially to infrastructure. Burkina Faso has relied for decades on imported steel from Europe, China, and India, just like many African nations. Traoré's steel strategy is about breaking this chain of dependency and redirecting the money spent on foreign imports into local production, jobs, and value chains, and sheets to neighboring countries like Mali, Ghana, Benin, and Togo. Steel will no longer arrive by ship. It will rise from our soil, Traoré proclaimed in 2024. It's a radical doctrine, but one that's beginning to take hold across West Africa. At the heart of the steel strategy is a powerful demographic weapon: Burkina Faso's youth. Over 70% of the population is under 30. This generation has long suffered from unemployment and lack of opportunities. Technical training centers are being established in Bobo Dioulasso and Ouagadougou. Government-funded programs offer certifications in welding, smelting, and engineering. Local artisans are being integrated into the formal economy through cooperatives. In 2024 alone, over 15,000 jobs were created directly and indirectly through steel development projects, and projections show 50,000 plus jobs by 2027. Burkina Faso isn't just building steel, it's building lives. Here's where it gets truly Pan-African. Burkina Faso's steel push is perfectly timed with the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AfCFTA, which removes tariffs and trade barriers between 54 African nations. Military patrols now protect transport routes, and a new iron and steel authority has been formed to regulate prices and exports fairly. The country is now positioning itself as a regional hub for low-cost, high-quality steel, exporting rebar, beams. With AfCFTA, border bottlenecks are easing, and transport corridors like the Ouagadougou-Lomé Railway are being revived. Already, Burkina Faso has signed steel trade agreements with Niger for construction-grade steel, Guinea, joint iron processing plants. Zimbabwe has announced a steel and sovereignty agenda. Ethiopia is integrating steel into its national housing programs. Côte d'Ivoire, rail, steel, and road infrastructure supply. This is not just trade. It's economic diplomacy, powered by African materials, African labor, and African ambition. Of course, the road to steel independence hasn't been easy. Foreign mining lobbies have pushed back, fearing nationalization. Energy limitations remain, especially during dry seasons. And it is proof that even in the harshest of terrains, industrial miracles are possible. Security threats in the north of the country have disrupted transport, but Traoré has remained defiant. His administration is working with Mali and Guinea to build a joint hydroelectric dam to power the steel zones. To Traoré, these challenges are proof that Burkina Faso is on the right path. If no one resists your rise, you're not rising far enough, he declared in a 2025 speech. Burkina Faso is not just making steel. It's making a statement that Africa can build, that raw materials don't have to mean raw deals, that industrial strength is a pillar of sovereignty. Across Africa, other leaders are taking note. Ghana is expanding its own foundries. What began as one nation's rise is now becoming a continent-wide awakening. My people, the sound you hear from Burkina Faso is not just the clang of steel. It is the sound of freedom being forged, the sound of youth reimagining their future, the sound of an Africa no longer waiting for handouts, but building its own house, beam by beam. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's steel strategy is not perfect, but it is powerful. And so, from Ouagadougou to Lagos, from Dakar to Kinshasa, let the fire burn. Let Africa rise, not with borrowed steel, but with its own.